Okay, we are live.
Nashindana malisi nawe ingekuwa wa malaika kidege hukuwaza kidege kidege hukuwaza kidege nami nifanyeje kijana mwenzio nashindwa na malisi nawe ingekuwa malaika nashindwa na malisi nawe ingekuwa malaika malaika nakupenda malaika malaika nakupenda malaika ningekuoa maliwe ningekuoa dada nashindana malisi nawe ningekuoa malaika nashindana malisi nawe ningekuoa malaika. Malaika, nakupenda malaika. Malaika, nakupenda malaika. Ningekuoa maliwe, ningekuoa dada. Nashindana malisi nawe ningekuoa malaika nashindana malisi nawe ningekuoa malaika pesa zasumbua roho yangu pesa zasumbua roho yangu nami nifanyeje kijana mwenzio nashindana malisi nawe ingekuwa wa malaika nashindana malisi nawe ingekuwa wa malaika kidege hukuwaza kidege kidege hukuwaza kidege nami nifanyeje kijana mwenzio nashindwa na malisi nawe ingekuwa malaika nashindwa na malisi nawe ingekuwa malaika we, ningekuwa malaika. Nashinda na mali sina we, ningekuwa malaika. Malaika, nakupenda malaika. Malaika, nakupenda malaika. Ningekuwa maliwe, ningekuwa dada. Nashinda na mali sina we, ningekuwa malaika. Nashinda na mali sina we, ningekuwa malaika. Pesa zasumbua roho yangu, pesa zasumbua roho yangu, nami nifanyeje kijana mwenzio?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining.
Ningekuwa
Good to
malaika.
see you all. Yeah. Good afternoon, good evening, and a very early good morning, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much for making time to join from Africa, but also from different parts of the world. And I'm so excited for today. Today's conversation is so important, and I'm so honored that I'll be facilitating this session together with my co-host, Dr. Linda Yevu. And before we begin, I just want us to reflect on this African proverb that says that when spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion. And so even as we reflect on this and we sort of like think about the power of unity, the power of sharing knowledge together, of sharing our stories, of coming together, knowing that we only become stronger when we uplift each other. So thank you so much. Today's webinar is especially close to my heart, and that is because it actually centers women whose lives are affected and impacted by preeclampsia. Now, beyond the diagnosis, beyond all of the hospital admissions, all of the big terminology and everything, we need to remember that it is women, actual real women, who are behind this big name called preeclampsia. And most of the time, they are afraid or they have a lot of unanswered questions. They carry a lot of grief, but they are also resilient and their stories need to be heard. Sometimes in healthcare, as healthcare providers, especially for me being a healthcare provider myself, I realize that we become so focused on treating the condition and we sort of seem to forget that there's a real person experiencing it. So today is about women's stories, and I'm so excited. Whenever there's anything that has to do with women, it gets me really pumped up. So thank you for making time to join us for today's conversation. And before we really go into it, I also want to acknowledge the African Preeclampsia Network for providing this platform, this safe space where women can come together, where health providers can come together, researchers can come together, united by a shared commitment to improving maternal health, amplifying women's voices, and advancing that collective action against preeclampsia across the African continent. Next slide, please. So as is the norm, we'll run through a few of the Zoom practicalities, just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. Please keep your microphone muted as you join, and we'll love for you to unmute much later on if we have a Q&A, which we will do at the end of this session. Kindly note that all of our meetings, so all of the pre-launch webinars and even the main event are recorded and will be available on our social media platforms. One of the questions we usually get people asking is, oh, can we get the slides and all of those things? Well, just note that we will put all of these on our social media platforms so you can access it from there. If you don't want your name or your video, like you don't want to be a part, just keep your name off and also don't turn your camera on so that way you can remain anonymous. Alrighty, next slide, please. So this is our program for today. We'll go through a bit of an icebreaker session. You know me, but I also like to know you a bit more. Then I'll introduce the objectives of the webinar and all of those things. I'll introduce our speakers. I will take the first speaker and introduce her, and then my co-host, Dr. Yeve, will introduce the second speaker. We'll have a Q&A, and then we'll run through a bit of the closing items at the end. Next slide, please. All right, so this is my favorite part. It's like a get to know me, get to know you session. So I just want you to go to the chat and type, where are you joining us from? Just to know you a bit more. So please go to the chat box and please type where you're joining us from. I am joining you all the way from Australia. It is 2 a.m. here, so it's really early in the morning. But like I said, this is something I'm really passionate, really interested in. I just want to hear more. So I've made time to be here. Alrighty, thank you so much for typing in the chat. So we have people joining from Nebraska. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Emmanuel from Accra. Brittany from Jamaica, thank you so much for joining. Patricia is joining from the USA. Winifred can't hear. Winifred, can you log out and come back in? Usually it will resolve the problem. David is joining from the Netherlands. Gifty from the Eastern region. I'm assuming that is Eastern region in Ghana, is it? Gifty. And we have Van Wil, who is joining from Netherlands, but currently joining from Wanza. And we have Benson from Tanzania. So that's really good. Another thing is, please share the registration link. It's not too late. Put it on your WhatsApp status, on Facebook, so that we can get more people joining, more women, more families joining us for today's conversation. So please share the link so that your friends, your family, your colleagues can register and join us today. Now, can you share a fun fact from your place of origin? A fun fact from your place of origin. When people hear Australia, they are thinking snakes, crocodiles, and the rest. Well, it's true, but they are not everywhere. Like, I don't open my door and see a big snake saying hello to me. So share a fun fact from your region, anything interesting you'd like us to know. Um, are you known to be the cleanest city? Do you have the funniest, liveliest people? Do you guys make the best coffee from your region? What's a fun fact? Anything interesting we'd like to know? Gifty, I think I saw in the Eastern region over this weekend, it was actually raining like ice. Is that true, Gifty? Because I know the Eastern region can be really cold. Yeah. So go to the chat. Okay, so Gifty says that that's true. All right, so just go to the chat and type any fun fact about where you're joining us from. We also want to know, what is your profession? What do you do? Oh, so somebody says, if we could choose only one thing to eat for the rest of our lives, it would be cheese. Don't we all love a good cheese? Yeah, I think I like that. I think I'll be moving where you live. Yeah, please invite me. I'll be moving there. Okay, and from Memphis, somebody says, people from Memphis are people of soul and courage and who live here. People of soul and courage live here. That's a fun fact from Memphis. That's really nice. Thank you for sharing that, Patricia. Now in the chat, I want to know your profession. Like, how many midwives are joining us today? I'm a midwife, a very biased midwife. I'm always looking out for the midwives first. And the nurses. Okay, great. So it's good to know I have a support in the chat. Gifty is also a midwife. Thank you, Gifty, for joining. A reset by statistician. Patricia, thank you for joining. Emmanuel says he's a public health professional. Interesting. Yeah. Social epidemiologist. Brittany, thank you for joining. Colleen says, jerk chicken and reggae music. Okay, so you're from Jamaica, Colleen. Interesting. I love jerk chicken. Yeah. And Shalom says she's a midwife. David is a medical doctor. So yeah, thank you so much. And lastly, what are you hoping to learn today? What are you hoping to learn today? So if you can type that in the chat, that would be great. And Colleen says she's a pelvic health physical therapist. Yeah. All right. So just very hoping to learn today. Is it that you want to know more about women's experiences? You want to know more about advocacy? You want to know more about how we can really center women's needs, their choices, respect their wishes, make sure that they are well beyond the definition of preeclampsia? What exactly are you hoping to learn today? But throughout the session, I will be monitoring the chat. So I'll be reading your comments. I like to keep the chat really interactive. Ask all your questions and I'll try to answer some. I'll bring the rest to the attention of the speakers as well. All right, so Gifty wants to know more about women's needs when they are diagnosed with preeclampsia. That's really important. Patricia wants to know more about improving health inequities in preeclampsia. Colleen says that she wants to know more about what other regions are doing to help women who are affected. That's a really serious and really important conversation to have. So Colleen, hopefully our speakers will let you know exactly what's going on in Africa. Thank you so much for joining. Next slide, please. All right, so these are the themes of today's webinar series, and this is the last of the pre-launch webinar. Pre-launch webinars we are having. So the title of today's webinar says that beyond the diagnosis, what are patients' experiences, knowledge gaps, and societal impact? So basically the objective, we want to explore lived experiences of women. I don't like really to call women who have had preeclampsia patients, but that's it. It's sort of like a personal thing. So we want to explore the lived experiences of women beyond medical diagnosis by examining existing knowledge gaps, some of the psychosocial challenges that they face, and that broader societal impact. Because preeclampsia does not just affect the woman, it impacts her job, it impacts her family, it impacts her church members. Like there's just a whole lot, that whole village around the woman is impacted. So that's the objective of today's webinar. Next slide, please. All right, and these are the expected outcomes. So we hope that when you leave here, you have an improved understanding of the patient experience. We are giving you a front row seat to what preeclampsia is really like. So we hope that you can understand it a bit more. You can understand also the key knowledge and care gaps, and especially for us as researchers, these are the points from which we need to start rephrasing our research questions to see how can we fill these gaps. And also, you will have a strengthened commitment to be more of like an advocate for preeclampsia, making sure that women are driving this advocacy. Women are leading, real survivors are leading this advocacy for preeclampsia. So these are the expected outcomes. Next slide, please. So my name is Isabella Gatti. Like I said, I'm a midwife, I'm a midwifery researcher. I'm based here in Australia, and I'm really happy to be hosting these pre-launch webinars together with Dr. Lucy Yevo, who you'll meet after our first speaker is done. So thank you for seeing our faces for like 3 whole episodes before the main launch. Now, if you enjoyed these pre-launch webinars, you can just imagine what the main one is going to be like. So I encourage you to make time and be with us again for the main event. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm super duper excited to be introducing our first speaker. Back to my African proverbs again. You know, we say that until a lion tells its story, the hunter will always be the hero. And so we can't just assume that we know it all when it comes to preeclampsia, even as health providers. And most of the time, we are focusing on how to change that clinical story. How are we going to improve the diagnosis? How are we going to improve the risk management and all of those things? But what we forget or what we sideline are women's lived experiences. It's an absolute pleasure for me to be introducing Catherine Kakolo Monjela. And Catherine is a development strategist and she's an advocate with over 15 years of experience. So Catherine has worked in the space of health, education, climate, and gender justice for a very long time. She's the co-founder of Tanzania's first preeclampsia stakeholder advocacy organization, and she's really passionate about systems change and inclusive leadership. Catherine uses storytelling and collaboration to connect global conversations with local realities. Her work centers one question: how can we build fairer systems where people, not power, define progress? And so today she's going to be speaking on reframing preeclampsia through patient voice and community experience. And this is a conversation that I can't wait to have, and I can't wait to listen to Catherine. So please join me in warmly welcoming Catherine. Over to you, Catherine.
Could you go to the first slide? I think that's the second one. Thank you. The first one. The one before this, yes. So yes, hi everyone. I'm really happy to be here and to share my few insights from the patient perspective. And I'd just like to really thank the Africa Preeclampsia Network for involving Thrive Beyond Preeclampsia and just getting the conversation started. So pretty much today I'll be talking about reframing preeclampsia through patient voice and community experience. And to dig deeper, so as explained, my name is Catherine, and I am the chair and co-founder of Thrive Beyond Preeclampsia Foundation, the first patient-based organization in Tanzania. So before we begin to the actual discussion, I just had two questions that I wanted all of us to think about. So the two questions, could you go to the next slide, please? The two questions are, one, when you hear the words patient voice, what comes to mind? Patient voice, what is the first thing that comes to mind? You can just drop whatever comes to mind in the chat when you hear the words patient voice. Okay, I'm seeing lived experience. Good. Felt experience, experience is coming through. So there's a lot of experience and listening to patients. Thank you. Alone in a big system. That's a good one. Yes. So the three things that are immediately standing out from the first question is experience, listening to patients, and a big system. The next thing I'd like us to think about real quick, no pressure, is when something serious happens in your life, who is the first person that you call, trust, or run to for advice? Let's say it can be either good, positive, sad. If something serious happens in your life, who is the first person you call, trust, or run to for advice? Is it your mom, your dad, your best friend, a pastor? Who is the first person you would run to? Yes, your bestie and Dr. Google. Love it, love it, love it. Yes. You've got your dad, mother's mom, or best friend. Yes. Who is the first person that you would call? Your brothers. I'm seeing a lot of family coming into play. Family and good friends. Anyone else? When something serious happens in life, who's the first person you would call, trust, or run to for advice? Someone who you would trust. Your partner, thank you, yes. Close friend or brother. Lovely. I'm surprised no one has said ChatGPT, but that's a discussion for another day. Spiritual parents, pastors, yes. Pastor, good. Um, great. Would you be able to move to the next slide real quick? Thank you. So from all the responses that we've been able to put on the chat, the main thing which I hope we can all see is that no one has mentioned doctor. No one has mentioned a researcher. They've all mentioned people who are close to home, people who we trust, and people who are within our community, people who are within close bound. And this reminds us of something that's very important, but rarely spoken about, that health decisions are deeply influenced by trust, relationships, family, and community. And the reality for many women who are affected by preeclampsia is that the emergency may end clinically, but the experience continues long after discharge. That experience is what generally led me to co-found the Thrive Beyond Preeclampsia Foundation, because I had realized that there are many women surviving these emergent experiences silently, often without information, support, and spaces where their voices were truly heard and listened to. Patient's voice is not an emotional add to maternal health care. It is rather a critical form of evidence that can improve outcomes, strengthen systems, and reshape how we understand preeclampsia. Next slide, please. So next, I'd just like to go through why, from my perspective, I feel that the community voice matters and where the community voice can come into play. So maternal health just does not begin or end in hospitals. And I think we've been able to see that with the initial responses that we gave. If someone is pregnant, when they find out they're pregnant, the first person they tell is not a doctor, unless the doctor is their spouse. The first person they tell is not a researcher. The first person they tell is someone that they trust, someone within their community. So in taking that into context, if communities are uninformed, women will arrive late to their clinics. If communities are empowered, lives can be saved earlier. Digging deeper, communities can shape health-seeking behavior, pushing or convincing women to go to clinics. Communities can also have or play a role to play in delayed recognition, which often begins at a community level. Someone can tell you within your community, oh, you're just swelling, it's part of pregnancy, where realistically, swelling could be a sign of preeclampsia. If the community is empowered, they will be the first person to be able to direct you, you need to go to the hospital. Cultural beliefs also influence response to symptoms. Women often seek advice from trusted people first, as we saw from the initial quick study that we did in the beginning. From the next slide, please. So what we hear from women that we have spoken to, from women who are mothers, from women who have actually been through preeclampsia, they say things such as, I thought swelling was normal. They comment that no one explained what was happening. They say things such as, I knew something was wrong. And they also say, I lost my child. I have so many unanswered questions. How do I heal? Where do I start healing from? And from this, you're able to see that lived experience reveals gaps that data alone cannot conclude to. Can we go to the next slide? Now I'd like to just break it down a tad bit further to see where the gap can be visible between clinical care and lived reality. So from the clinical perspective, doctors, researchers, blood pressure to them is just a normal term. Emergency delivery, a normal term. Stabilization, a normal term. Maternal survival, normal terms. But on the side of lived experience, for us as mothers who are not in the medical fields, who are not doctors, who are not academicians, who are not researchers, you tell me blood pressure, what my mind processes is fear. You tell me emergency delivery, what my mind processes is trauma. You tell me stabilization, what my mind processes is emotional recovery. You tell a woman maternal survival, what their mind processes is long-term uncertainty. So the sooner we can understand that the clinical perspective is not necessarily taken the same way as the lived experience, I think that is the first step to understand and actually try to process that science, it can save lives, but listening is what actually improves the systems. Now, in the next slide, please, we are going to go a step further to understand how and why preeclampsia is a systems issue. So for this, I've been able to break down and tap it as to what the ideal roadmap would look like in the simplest of terms possible. So we'll start with the community awareness. From community awareness, we look into access to care. From access to care, we go down into health system response, which is followed by communication and respectful care, which is followed by emergency management, postpartum follow-up, and lastly, long-term recovery support. Now, at every stage, systems either protect the women or increase risk. In every stage that I've mentioned here, as we go deeper, you'll be able to see how the systems can either protect or increase risk based on how we address them. Now, for the first breakdown, in the next slide, please. In the first breakdown, I've been able to assess two things, which are the awareness system and the community system. To begin with the awareness system, the things that I would want us all to think about and process as we're going through this session is, do the women who we're engaging with, do the women who we're treating, do they know the warning signs? Do the women in our community know the warning signs of preeclampsia? Many women normalize things such as swelling, dismissing headaches, and are told the symptoms are normal pregnancy experiences. Everyone goes through them. You swell, it's normal. But from the system's perspective, it reflects a weak public health education. It reflects low community awareness, and it also reflects inadequate antenatal counseling. And this implies that the healthcare system failed before the emergency ever began. Moving on to the community system, the question that I tend to ask myself when thinking of this is, did the women's support system actually understand the emergency? Did they understand the emergency? If communities that we're in, if the communities that the woman is in, if they minimize the symptoms that they see, if they delay decisions such as the woman going to their antenatal, if they delay things such as lack of information, women will arrive late for care. What does this imply? This implies that maternal outcomes are often shaped outside of hospitals too. In the next slide, we're moving on to two other breakdowns, the communication system and access and equity. So for the communication system, my mind processes things such, was the information explained clearly and respectfully? I would like to repeat that because a lot of people tend to have it mixed up thinking that it's the same thing or sidelining the respect aspect in maternal health. Was the information explained clearly and respectfully? One common statement that we tend to hear when speaking to survivors is that no one explained what was happening. They found themselves terrified and left without understanding future risks. One thing I always like to say and express is that no woman carries a child or gets pregnant wanting to not reach the end game. No woman gets pregnant wanting not to see their child at the end of their 9 months. That is not there. So in a situation where you tell the woman that this is the risk of preeclampsia, this is what is going to happen as a result of preeclampsia, we believe that it will be a good stage in heading the right way of raising awareness. Now, what this reflects, it reflects rushed systems. It reflects, if we're honest, overstretched providers. It reflects lack of patient-centered communication. And this generally implies that saving women physically is not enough if the system leaves us confused and unsupported. In terms of access and equity, what comes to mind is, could this woman access timely and quality care? Things that I take into consideration are things such as transport, distance, general cost, overcrowded facilities when we go to our antenatals, referral delays, shortage of equipment, and staff. Women in rural and undersourced areas are disproportionately affected. And this implies that preeclampsia outcomes are tied to structural inequities, whether we want to say it out loud, ruffle some feathers, or not. That is a fact. In the next breakdown, in the next slide, I've looked into two things. The systems, and research and policy. So for postpartum systems, what comes to mind is after discharge, many women, what happens? Receiving no long-term follow-up. Most of the follow-up is done between 3 to 6 months. And that is mainly for those who have had the baby. For those who have lost a child as a result of preeclampsia, is there any incentive for a long-term follow-up? Some food for thought. Women after discharge are not informed of cardiovascular risks. After discharge, they struggle emotionally after traumatic births. They receive no mental health support. Now, what does this imply system-wise? It implies that maternal healthcare systems often focus on survival and not recovery or long-term well-being. On the side of research and policy, we're looking at things such as, are women actually involved in shaping solutions? Now, this is where the patient voice actually comes into play, because historically, patient voices were underrepresented. Historically, policies were designed without survivors. Funding decisions were made far from communities. So what this implied is that the solutions became disconnected from lived realities. And the last system breakdown that I want to discuss real quick in the next slide is financing. And as much as it's important, I think this is why I've given it its own slide. Because if we're realistic, preeclampsia is not prioritized enough. Even though if you look at the facts, preeclampsia intersects maternal mortality, it intersects newborn mortality, it intersects cardiovascular disease, and it intersects non-communicable disease burdens. Now, in spite of all this, survival-led advocacy still remains underfunded. Postpartum care is still neglected, and maternal health is often siloed from NCD investment. Now, what does this all show? It all shows that funding priorities shape who survives and who is forgotten. Now, from all this, what I believe must change, in the next slide, please. What I believe must change, or my general call to action, or Thrive Beyond Preeclampsia's general call to action. We've made it very brief, 6 quick points. 1, we need to listen to women earlier. Actually listen. We need to include survivors in policy spaces. And by including, I do not mean just offering them a seat at a table. The seat at the table we're very appreciative, but it's a matter of giving us a seat and actually listening to what we have to say. The third thing is to invest in community education. 4th, strengthen postpartum care. 5th, fund survivor-led organizations. And our last call to action is to integrate lived experience into research. To conclude, I have some few food for thoughts as we continue with the sessions. If you can go to the last slide, please, the next slide. So for food for thought, I've got 3 things, not complicated, not rocket science. The first thing I'd like us to all think about as we go through today's session is, 1, if every one of us have come from a woman, what responsibility do we carry to ensure that no woman loses her life? Or if the life of her baby, because her voice was unheard? If every one of us came from a woman, what responsibility do we carry to ensure no woman loses her life or the life of her baby because her voice was unheard? The second thing I would like us to think about: what would maternal healthcare systems look like if women's voices were treated as essential evidence rather than optional stories? What would maternal healthcare systems look like if women's voices were treated as essential evidence rather than optional stories? And the last thing I'd like us to think about is how many lives could be saved if communities understood preeclampsia before emergencies happened. Let me just repeat that real quick. How many lives could be saved if communities understood preeclampsia before emergencies happened? The future of maternal health should not only be shaped in laboratories or boardrooms, they should also be shaped by how well we choose to listen. In the last slide, I'd just like to thank you so much for your time. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you. That was a really powerful and important discussion. Lots to think about, lots to reflect on. We were busy in the chat typing our thoughts and all of that, but we'll come to that at the end. But just as I hand over to my co-host, some of the key themes that you spoke about that really stood out for me is that importance of trust in the healthcare relationship, which oftentimes we take for granted, but also which, like that's what the WHO is asking for, that respectful care that centers the woman, where the woman can trust the health provider, she can actually form a meaningful relationship with the health provider and all of those things. And also meaningfully including consumers and survivors in research. I think that is where we are missing the mark, especially in Africa. It becomes like a tick the box item, it's something at the end and all of that. So thank you for bringing out these key points that are like moments for us to reflect and ponder and think, how can we really do better? Because women do deserve better, especially women in Africa. So thank you so much, Catherine, and over to you, Linda, and we'll take questions at the end.
Okay. Thank you, Isabella. Thank you, Catherine, for this insightful presentation. Our next speaker is Ashley Muteti. She is a newborn and maternal health advocate, a communication professional with over 11 years of experience. She is the founder of Zuri Lazili Foundation. Forgive me for the wrong pronunciation. And a key-based, Kenya-based non-profit organization. She has led a lot of initiatives supporting and training health workers in providing respectful maternal care and advancing community engagement. Her topic today will be on the clinical decision chain in the pre-eclampsia care. It's an honor to introduce you to the audience. Ashley, your audience, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. It's such an honor to be here today and speak about a topic that is very, very close to my heart. For the first Africa Preeclampsia Network launch. I mean, this is amazing. I think we should give a round of applause to all the organizers and the team that has really been behind organizing this event. It has taken a lot, and I'm so happy that Africa is standing up and we're having conversations around preeclampsia. So thank you very much. And I don't know if Mama Kay is here, but we want to also appreciate her efforts in ensuring that this Africa Preeclampsia Network has come to fruition. So my name is Ashley Muteti, and I'm from Kenya. And my organization is called Zuri Nzilani Foundation, and it's a maternal and newborn health foundation based in Nairobi, Kenya. And we are very passionate about maternal health, and we have keen interest in hypertensive disorders in pregnancy. And that is what we focus on, alongside respectful maternal and bereavement care. Now, my topic for today is on the preclinical decision chain in preeclampsia outcomes. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Great. So this presentation focuses on what happens before diagnosis and where most delays and preventable complications actually originate. And I'm so grateful for Catherine's presentation, because that I'm building up probably on what she has spoken about of the delays and the decisions that are happening. And I really, really loved your presentation, Catherine. Now, preeclampsia remains one of the leading causes of maternal and newborn morbidity and mortality globally. Yet, women recognize these symptoms late, they normalize the warning signs, they arrive in facilities at severe stages, and they encounter delayed escalation pathways. And this raises a very critical question that we all ask. Are we intervening too late in the journey of preeclampsia? What is happening in between? Why are women coming to facilities when the stages are already advanced, when they are probably having a stroke or their kidneys are failing or they cannot be able to see and they've lost vision completely? I want you to take a look at the picture of the lady who's on this presentation. And this is what preeclampsia does to women, changes your entire physique. Yeah, and women are presenting like this to facilities. Now, the problem is that we often treat preeclampsia as a clinical emergency. And I want us to focus on, or rather, the presentation today will look at what are some of the preclinical things that are happening behind the scenes before now we present to the hospital. But before it becomes that clinical, first, the condition is interpreted, it is discussed among the community. It is negotiated. Do I go to the hospital right now? Do I stay? What is the next course of action? And it is delayed. So by the time the diagnosis happens, several decisions have already shaped the outcome for this woman. Now, once a woman notices that she's swelling, then she has headaches, then she has blurred vision, she tells herself pregnancy is uncomfortable. Someone reassures her that this is a normal experience, so she waits. She arrives at the facility in severity. So, what if I told you that by the time preeclampsia is diagnosed clearly, three decisions have already been made elsewhere? Now, this is a picture of me with severe preeclampsia. I was admitted in hospital for an entire month and I did not know what was happening. I was just listening to the doctors mentioning that this is preeclampsia. I didn't know why you're keeping me here. I did not feel so sick to warrant my admission in this particular facility. But before it reached to a point where I'm being admitted for a month, I stayed at home. I noticed the swelling, but I felt okay, probably this is normal and pregnancy people swell. I've never experienced anyone in my circle experience any bad thing in their pregnancy or a bad outcome or even lose a child. Until one doctor looked at me and said, "Have you gotten your pressure checked?" And that's when the light bulb came up. And I was like, okay, so is it concerning that my feet are swelling, that my face is swelling? I just thought it was normal. Yeah. So by the time I'm being told, go to the facility, I had already interpreted this as a normal pregnancy situation and I was okay with it. So, what are the three conversations that are happening? One, there's the body conversation. Two, there's the social conversation. And three, there's the system conversation. Plus, also, there's the normalization culture of pregnancy and the invisible triad system. So, looking at the body conversation, similar to what I was discussing, the self interpretation systems. So, we are reframing the symptoms. I've experienced swelling. For me, I'm a first time mom. I don't know. I know, or rather, I know you will swell, your nose will become big, your face will become, you will look different. And so we minimize this swelling to a pregnancy, normal pregnancy situation. We've normalized the situation because we have interpreted it differently. When women are experiencing pain also in pregnancy, or you're feeling this is a bit off, yeah, you're like, I've handled worse. Yeah. And I don't know why in our African culture we usually say, I have a high tolerance of pain. Women can take enough, we can take more, until we feel that pain. Yeah, we have normalized high tolerance of pain. For women who have experienced pregnancies before, you've probably given birth to 3 children and this is your fourth time being pregnant. You already assume that, I know everything. I know the ropes. I have learned everything. So there's nothing new that I'm going to experience. So you normalize and minimize your particular symptoms that are appearing. So the body does not speak fast. Your interpretation of what you're experiencing is what is speaking fast. So pregnancy experiences shape risk interpretation. And the factors that are influencing this delay include the first pregnancy uncertainty, prior pregnancy reference bias. Like I've said, you've been pregnant before, then you don't think that this is particularly an issue. The high tolerance of pain as a social strength. Women, we identify as people who we can be able to experience pain and we have a high tolerance of pain. And the expectation that pregnancy must be endured. There's a common phrase that we usually hear in our country when you say probably you're not feeling well or what, you're told you're not the first person being pregnant. Yeah. So the expectation is you have to endure what you're going through right now. You keep quiet. You're not the first person. Don't ask too many questions. You just go through it because you're not the first one. So we are minimizing these particular experiences. But danger signs become socially muted before they become medically urgent. Now, the second conversation is the social conversation, and this is where the validation actually takes place. And health seeking is rarely an individual act. Yeah, it is a social act. I'll give an example of so Azuri Nzilani Foundation, we have a social support group. And in this social support group, we have women who have experienced preeclampsia before coming in and joining, getting support. We provide education, questions are asked, people are answered, and we walk the journey with women, even currently. Who are pregnant or planning to be pregnant and the likes. And so, in this particular situation, we had a lady who was pregnant. She had a high, very, very high blood pressure. She knew that you're not supposed to sit at home with a blood pressure that is above 170, 100, or 160, 100. And so she told the husband was away at work, but her mother in law was with her. So she said, I really want to go to the hospital, but my mother in law says this is normal blood pressure. Even old people get blood pressure and it is normal. They take medication and that is okay. And she's refusing for me to go. And so this brought about that this decision of the woman to go to hospital is not her own decision. There's the mother-in-law who is there, who is trying to validate this urgency and say, even old people experience high blood pressure and they take medication. But this is different. Who authorizes the spending? The husband is away, so he has to send money for her to probably take a cab and go. But the husband was not able, and we had to intervene at that particular point. Who decides when the care is needed? Now, the mother in law is deciding for the woman when the care is needed. For her, right now, with the pressure of 170, it was not as important for her to go to hospital. And who influences the interpretation of this woman? So, when women are surrounded with a community or friends or things like that, they influence the interpretation of what they're experiencing because they share it first with the people who are around it. So this is a household decision. The partner delaying the hospital visit, family normalizing the symptoms, financial approval delaying the transport and the situation, and the mother-in-law shaping interpretation norms. And we really believe mothers because they've done it before. They probably have 7 or 8 children. And so there's nothing new under the sun. So whatever they tell you is Bible. So we see that health seeking is negotiated from a household kind of point of decision. The third conversation is the system conversation, and this is the clinical point of entry. Now, women often enter the system late, under-triaged, and under-escalated. So what are some of the realities that we face when we now come to the clinical point of entry? We have the BP inconsistencies during antenatal care, and this is something that we are seeing very much, and it is quite unfortunate that during the time of your pregnancy, you get a BP maybe of 130 and 90, and there is no point to note that, okay, probably you should be monitored more, or we should follow up with you. You're just told this is baseline and you're okay and you're good to go. So we are getting these missed opportunities of a woman who is presenting with a bit of an elevated high blood pressure, and it is not noted down. Yeah, so there are missed mild warning signs. Then the referral friction and delayed escalation pathways that I'll discuss. Now, the system reality often meets preeclampsia at the stage where it is easiest to miss and the hardest to reverse. And I'll say that again. The system often meets preeclampsia at a stage it is easiest to miss and hardest to reverse, because we continue to see, monitor and review later, and nothing happens. Mild symptoms are being dismissed. There's the delayed referrals, and we have the issue of transport and cost barriers. Now, one of the things that I've also mentioned is the delayed referrals. We have a case from one of our community members who she was experiencing severe preeclampsia, and she was told to go to another facility that doesn't have 24 hours obstetrics care. She stayed there for 2 hours to the point that she got placenta abruption. Then she had to be escalated and taken by ambulance to the facility that she was supposed to deliver. And it also happened to me, because I also experienced placenta abruption and had gone to a facility just to take my pressure. Then everything broke loose and I was later transferred. But by the time this lady was being done her C-section, she had already flatlined. Yeah, she was unconscious, and the entire thing was happening when she was unconscious. Yeah, and not unconscious because she was given the jab and everything. No, it's because the things got to us during the referral delays to the point that it left her unconscious. So what is the missing piece that we are having? We have awareness campaigns, but not awareness systems. And for me, this is the bulb here, is to change how we are presenting the information to women from the point that they are able to make decisions. So currently, the messaging often tells the women what preeclampsia is. And it is important to continue to tell women what preeclampsia is, because a lot of people do not know. But the messaging does not include when to escalate this matter. When is it, at what point should I really go to hospital? And if I'm going to hospital, should I go to the dispensary that is near me, or I go to a hospital that has 24 hours obstetrics care and probably has a NICU, so that by the time I'm delivering and I'm delivering prematurely, at least I am guaranteed a small percentage that my child will survive in a facility that can be able to take care of the baby. Where should I go? How urgently should I act, and who should respond? So some of the implementation pathways that we can think about as I wind up my presentation is a decision-based awareness campaigns, as we think about raising awareness for preeclampsia. We move from information delivery that is too jam-packed, at times hard to comprehend to patients, but to an action-oriented form of communication, where we are not only teaching about symptoms, but we are teaching about the urgency, we are teaching about escalation timing, we are teaching about what symptoms are normal in pregnancy and what symptoms are not normal. When we look at household escalation pathways, we need to target the people who are influencing health decisions, health-seeking decisions. Now, there are hospitals here in Kenya that when you attend antenatal clinics, you will be given first priority if you attend the clinic with your partner. Yeah. And they are encouraging that so that the information can be disseminated to both of them. Both of them can be able to understand any problem that may arise during pregnancy. The husband can be able to know and understand this is a danger sign. Yeah. So maternal care decisions are often shaped by partners, by mother-in-laws, by parents, by financial gatekeepers. So the programs that we are including in our messaging should also incorporate these particular people who influence the decisions that mothers make about their health. Not leaving the community healthcare volunteers. Last month, we had community engagement, a focus group engagement with community healthcare promoters, and we were discussing about, just a second. Sorry about that. We're discussing about community healthcare volunteers. And for this, we realized that they do not have enough information about preeclampsia. It is at that point where they knew some of the symptoms that they should be aware of, and so we are really not utilizing community healthcare promoters, and they can be a very, very good resource to ensure that we are limiting the delays that we're experiencing when it comes to referrals. They can be able to identify these warning signs early, they reinforce the urgency, they support referrals, and they follow up after escalation. So they are not only there to probably check and diagnose or just check the blood pressure, but also how they can be able to escalate and follow up with the patient even after the patient has probably delivered. At facility level, it is sad that we do not have a standardized facility readiness tool. For example, there is a tool or a tray for PPH, postpartum hemorrhage, but what are the solutions and standard operating procedures or response that we have for preeclampsia? And this is lacking. Yeah. So when a woman is presenting at facility level with high blood pressure, what is the next course of action? Are we preparing the woman? Are we supposed to administer the aspirin? At what point are we administering the aspirin? At what point is she taking the blood pressure medication? At what point is she going to get magnesium sulfate? How are you going to administer magnesium sulfate? We actually know of a lady who passed on in a hospital facility that needed magnesium sulfate, and she was not able to get it simply because the nurse was not able to administer. And it's not that the magnesium sulfate was not in the facility. It was, but the nurse at the time did not know how to administer. And so these are some of the things that we can be able to incorporate at facility level. So having like an escalation checklist for women who are experiencing blood pressure, looking at the BP and symptom trigger protocols. What are the protocols every facility should follow when it comes to monitoring women with preeclampsia? Referral notification cards, and how are we writing about it? Are the medications she's taking, or how are we referring women to other facilities once they present with hypertension? Now, the other last point is on implementation is on referral and communication system, ensuring continuity between the community and facility care. And by this, we can strengthen the referral coordination, just I've said, with the CHVs, the transport linkages, the communication between CHVs and facilities, and tracking of high-risk mothers. And tracking of high-risk mothers does not end only at the facility level post-delivery or post-discharge. These are women who will once again probably get pregnant in their time. They are probably at a very high risk of developing cardiovascular conditions and such experiences, or medical challenges, even kidney issues. So there should be a very high tracking mechanisms that we have put in place for women who are experiencing preeclampsia. Now, as I conclude, preeclampsia does not begin in the hospital. It begins in a conversation where a woman is told directly or indirectly that she is feeling normal. And by the time we correct that conversation, we are often treating a severity, and at this point, it stops being anything else and it stops even being prevention. So we are often treating severity and not prevention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Shall we show her some great thumbs up, a clap, and all that? The next session is the Q&A. If you have any questions, kindly unmute yourself and ask Ashley, and then Catherine, anything that you want to, that is bugging your mind. Then I'll look through the chats and bring the chat information, questions there. Just raise your hand and then we'll call you to have a time with any of the presenters, the speakers. Hello, are you here? Questions? Wow, okay. Is that Joyce Brown or David?
Hi, sorry to disappoint. It's David.
Okay,
But
go
actually,
ahead with
first
your
of all,
question, David.
thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. And I believe it's also your brother's birthday. So thank you so much for making time. And if you have to leave to celebrate, we totally understand. But I had one question to both you and Catherine, because you both are from East Africa, from Tanzania and Kenya, respectively. And most of like a theme that is coming back is health-seeking behavior. So I was wondering if the health-seeking behavior between East Africa itself is very different, and if there's like differences you notice between Tanzania and Kenya, respectively, towards, for example, Ghana or other places, and maybe you have some examples. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so David, that's the same question you asked in the chat box, so I wouldn't go over that again. Go ahead.
Thank you. So when you actually posted that question on the chat box, I just found myself smiling because I know there are a lot of things that are aligned with my family in Kenya. I consider Ashley my sister in the mission. So things that came to mind in particular with preeclampsia, things such as cultural norms. So there's a lot of medication involved when it comes to preeclampsia. I know Ashley mentioned things like aspirin and all that, but realistically, a majority of Tanzanians, I think we are still set in the way of what does our culture say. Culturally, we do have natural herbs that we believe can sort out high blood pressure, but and they do tend to work, but the issue is the quantity that we're given. Is it sufficient? That's something up for discussion. So I think in the context that a lot of us are still stuck in our culture, and that's also based on the community that surrounds us. The community that surrounds us, not really a lot of people who are educated, for lack of better terms, or knowledgeable in terms of what medicine people are supposed to take, pushing people to go see the doctors. They'd rather push you to see someone locally who can help you with delivery when the time comes. Whereas I know our neighbors in Kenya, they are much more liberal, for lack of better terms. So it's like you can't find many Kenyans who are pro, let's do some local herbs, compared to actual medication. Actually, you will correct me if I stated wrongly. So I was looking at it from that context. But also there's something in terms of getting that awareness to go to antenatals once you find out you're pregnant. Whereas culture, and again, it comes back to the community. In Tanzania, I know for a fact that you're not advised in the community to go to a doctor until you have passed the 3 months mark. So once you are past 3 months, that's when technically it is confirmed that you're pregnant, and then now you can start announcing it, going to see doctors, and going to your antenatal. Whereas realistically, that is already too late. So antenatal should start once you find out you're pregnant, not once you are termed safe to announce it and seek what is this further support. And that again, it comes back to the community. So that's why, particularly, if you notice from both our conversations, the community has a massive role to play as to how the direction of the women when they are pregnant. If you want the women to go to antenatal, you have to start influencing within the community. As Ashley said it perfectly, the mother-in-laws in the situation, they have a massive role to play. Even if you look at postnatal care, once you deliver the baby, the mother-in-law, their main task is to make sure the mother is fine and is developing well. But they will have that same task if they are made aware that right now in this generation, once you have delivered a baby, you still need to go to postnatal care. What does that postnatal care look like? What role do they have to play? Whereas most of our mothers, that might have not been the case. So they are still providing a support based off how they did it in their times, whereas times have changed. So I think that continuous education to be provided within the community, within the members who we trust, the members who the women go to, giving them that continuous education, giving them where do people go to right now in the present, how soon should they see a doctor, will play a massive role in early detection and proper care for women who've got preeclampsia. And just one thing that also made me laugh, that though it's not within Tanzania and Kenya, but I think my sister from Cameroon mentioned that she swelled up and was told that she was having a boy. Literally the same thing back home in Tanzania. You swell up, it is normal. It probably is going to tell you the gender of the baby. So there's something that will come. It is never preeclampsia. It is never you are sick. It is the gender of the child. It is never you're swelling or you're too tired. It is you're pregnant. You're not the first one to get pregnant. You will not be the last one to get pregnant. So you can suck it up, take one for the team, and do this. So it's never given the weight that realistically it should be given, because it is the life of the mother and the life of the child that is at risk.
Mm.
And in Ghana, it means you are going to have a twin baby, apart from being a boy to be a twin baby.
Thank you so much.
That's very interesting, Catherine. Like, based on all the presentations you both have given in the past few minutes, I sort of like want your reflections on this, Ashley. So is it that our dynamic in Africa is so different because we are largely very social cultural? Like our dynamic is very social cultural. So could that be the reason why we tend to have much poorer outcomes when it comes to preeclampsia? Like, what are your thoughts on this, Ashley?
Yeah, I think so. But I tend to think also we are growing in terms of how we are consuming information right now. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, because there's too much information online. There's too much information from people who purport to be doctors or medical practitioners.
Especially
But
on TikTok.
yeah, and it's really, really bad. It's really, really bad. And it's making, especially seeing young mothers consuming such information as the Bible, and they tend to present to the hospital late when really there's nothing that would probably be done. But I wanted to also chip into the question that David had asked and add a point on, and looking at Kenya, we realize that a lot of women are really believing in pharmacies. Yeah. So you get a lot of your information from the pharmacy. You can go and get medication off the counter with no test, no nothing. But once the pharmacy has told you that then you take it as Bible. And so you see the advanced conditions now presenting more adversely to the woman, then they arrive to the facility late. And when you try to track where is this coming from, it came from a very small pharmacy where she was probably the blood pressure was measured and she was given something for it. So that's also one point that I wanted to raise. But looking at the African context, I feel we really believe in in our community setting, and they really influence mothers. Other mothers really influence our decisions. And because we are taught to respect our elders, and we don't talk back to doctors, we do not question doctors, and things like that, then we see some of these conditions being minimized and being normalized.
So it kind of looks like this. It's like a complex interwoven network. You can't separate a woman from her family. You can't separate her from her culture. You can't separate her from her church. So it's about how do we carry everybody along. I feel like that's the missing link also. It's not just the woman and her immediate family, but that broader social network, the mother-in-laws, the aunties, the cousins, the church. Because we did some webinars last year or so on religion and its influence, and you realize that it plays a big, big role in Ghana. So yeah, you make really valid points. Thank you so much. I'll hand it back over to Linda to take some questions from Brittany and Patricia.
Thank you. So I am in the United States, but I'm thinking that part of what I'm hearing is culturally relevant in Memphis, in the United States. We have high rates of preeclampsia here, and particularly among our African American community. And I've been trying to brainstorm, how can we address why is the preeclampsia worse in because it doesn't seem to be, for example, a genetic explanation for why the African American community is having more. And we imagine some of it is having to do with social determinants such as poverty, such as racism, so stress related things. But from what I'm hearing, I feel like maybe I have heard suggestions here in Memphis that it's like a pride thing, like a strong woman can have a pregnancy and she doesn't admit that it's difficult, or if there's any problem with her pregnancy, that's a source of shame perhaps. And that might be something that we could address with like some kind of cultural communication education. I don't know if this reflects, if any of you have responses to this idea.
Who wants to take a shot?
I could go real quick. I really love the idea of education. And for me, I just take like a step further in terms of like the continuous education. Because as mentioned by Ashley, there's a lot of misinformation on social media. And that can only be fixed by making sure the information that's given is relevant to the times. We have a lot of cultural connections to our communities, and we can use social media properly only if we give the right information based on the community. So I really like the connection that it's like even in Memphis, the issue is pretty much the same, and that you're really into culture and communities. But I think the communication that needs to make the information needs to be made needs to be continuous and relevant based on the current context. And maybe just to add on a tad bit, the information that's given right now, it's very scientific. So that's where I think social media can come to play in terms that to break it down in layman's terms, not science, not doctor, not research, but in terms that anyone, anywhere from any background can be able to access and understand the information that's being communicated. Because I don't know if anyone has noticed, but preeclampsia does not choose if you're educated, if you're not educated, if you're rich, if you're middle class. Preeclampsia does not choose who gets impacted. Anyone can be impacted by preeclampsia. So I think even the messaging needs to be very clear, and it needs to be very without scientific or ambiguous terms, so that anyone can understand and process it properly.
Thank you. Brittany, I'm sorry Patricia jumped in, but it's now your turn to ask your question. Kindly unmute.
Thank you, no problem. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I have a quick question about something a point that was made in Ashley's presentation around the idea of, in the social conversation, having sort of the financial gatekeepers, whether it's the partner, other family members, in terms of delaying care of who and when, the pregnant person can get to the hospital. And all of my research is around sort of social, cultural, and political determinants of preeclampsia. And that's something that I find to be very prominent, especially here in Jamaica, in terms of like hierarchy and thinking about social status. However, I'm curious to know from a survivor, like sort of perspective, what would be an appropriate way to navigate sort of the recommendation for that relationship? Because even though it is a very real thing, I think it challenges a lot of the cultural norms in terms of who we see as head of household. It challenges a lot of norms around patriarchy and the society and how it shows up. And for sometimes it can often cause more issues within the household because that challenge might then come off as the person trying to control the finances. So I'm curious that, like, how do we name these very real social and cultural issues while also sort of steeping it in the idea of how we understand the recommendations to be culturally appropriate?
Yeah, thank you, Brittany, for that question. And first and foremost, I think I'll be having a conversation more about that actually in Tanzania this week. We are having the Sub-Saharan Conference on Preeclampsia, and I have a topic that also touches on this. And so one of the things that we've realized as a gap is that, and probably something that we should try and advocate for as much as we can, is insurance. Because we realize that there are no insurances that are actually protecting the woman, especially women who have complications. So you find that preeclampsia is very expensive. Now, I'll have to buy my medication, maybe in a month, that's like $15. Then I'll have to go for ultrasounds more than expected. I'll have to pay out of pocket. I'll have to go for my visits. I'll have to pay for the transport around that. Then there are supplements that I am supposed to be taking. So even beyond the picture of me delivering this child, every single month I'm incurring a cost to manage the symptoms that I'm experiencing. And one of the things that we are saying is, why are governments not including this in insurance policies for women who are experiencing preeclampsia? The other thing is that it's unfortunate that women who are also experiencing preeclampsia and probably deliver prematurely and things like that lose their income. I had to resign from my job to care for my baby, yeah, who was preterm and needed like 3 months stay in hospital. Now, if I was a single parent, I would be in debt till today, I believe. And one of the things that we are thinking is, how can we be able to really support women through economic empowerment ventures that they can probably earn a bit of money that can also support their clinical or delivery or things that they are planning for towards the delivery. I don't know if I clearly answered the question, but those are some of the things that probably are running top of my mind: inclusive insurance coverage, and also seeing how we can be able to empower women through small economic initiatives that can be able to help them make decisions about their health.
Priscilla Anna, is your question answered? I saw you had your hand up, but then you drop it. If you,
Yes,
you still have your question, it has been addressed.
It's been addressed, but just an
Okay.
add-on that
Okay.
we are talking about empowering our women. But in terms of education, we've been educating them. So I want to find out in which other way can we lift this education to the next level for them to understand the agency when it comes to the topic of preeclampsia. We can empower them in the form of what Kat Ashley just said, letting them start small business so that they can be on. But when it comes to the knowledge, for them to understand the agency when it comes to preeclampsia, is it something that we are not doing right? Is there a gap that we need to fill when it comes to us giving them the needed information? Because the information is going, but it seems it's not sinking down well for them to get the agency, the import of the subject preeclampsia on them. Thank you.
Catherine
Catherine?
wants to answer that.
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to add on real quick with that comment and Priscilla's response. I think again, I'm coming back to like the culture and gender norms of a specific a specific country. So it's like in Tanzania, that gender role, the patriarchy is very high. So men are the heads of the household. So even in terms of empowering women with businesses or small capital to start something, that is a beautiful idea. And let's be real, if you empower a woman, she will take a business from zero to hero without any issue. However, if we do not involve the male party, the head of the household, then 9 times out of 10, that business will not succeed. So all the efforts that we have put to empower this woman to make sure that they can succeed in the midst of preeclampsia, that they can still, they cannot be financially impacted as a result of preeclampsia without involving the head of the household, the male figure, it's not sustainable. So I believe there has to be a way to incorporate or tap them in for them to actually understand that this is what we want to do. We want to give your family, even if you're giving it to the wife, you want to give your family a small loan or a small startup to do this business. This is what we're going to follow up. Get him involved in the process for the sake of sustainability, specifically in the context of Tanzania, where realistically men are still the head of the households, men still have the final say. Without including them in the conversation, it is very easy for him to know that you gave his partner the money. They will take that money and do something else, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Okay, since we have to wrap up in the next 3 minutes, Colin has the last word, the last question, and we didn't take any more questions. Colin, over to you. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. So my question is around what would be considered preconception counseling. So where are we, or how can we meet women before they're even pregnant or at the very beginning of their pregnancy? Because we know that not everybody goes to antenatal care in the very first weeks. We tend to wait after the 12-week mark, as I believe Catherine said. But where else is there an opportunity that we can catch women? Is it during, when women start their cycle, or where is there an opportunity for us to educate women prior to even becoming pregnant about what is normal and then when to seek help? Yes, you can swell, and this is the reason why, because cardiac output increases. But if you're swelling beyond this is different. So I'd be interested to hear either from Catherine or Rachel about what they feel is a good opportunity to be able to educate.
If I could just respond real quick, I just have two quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
Oh, okay, sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So okay.
Oh, okay. When you're done, then Catherine can come in.
Oh, all right. So one of the things that we've realized, so we have a social support group here in Kenya for women who have experienced preeclampsia. And between 2023 to date, we've had 50 successful deliveries from that group. Now, these are women who had previously had preeclampsia. And what we discuss in that group includes preconception care. So what I've found is helpful is women being in support groups of experience with shared experiences. They're aware that before I become pregnant, I need to first do a preconception care clinic, then decide now of being pregnant. And we've seen that being very, very successful in our social support group. The other thing that we're encouraging is at the point of discharge. Personally, at the point of discharge, I was told if you ever think of being pregnant again, then by the time you hit 12 weeks, know always in whatever facility that you're going to be in, you will have to take aspirin. That has never left my mind. From the moment I got pregnant, I knew this is going to save me. I've gone through worse. I don't want to experience anything bad. So that is the power of, if we are being discharged with information and a plan of follow up, information from the point of discharge. And I wish hospitals and facilities can do that, can discharge us with information, then help us, connect us to a group or a social support group that we can be able to continue the conversation from there. Similar to what cancer patients are experiencing. Because once preeclampsia, you have preeclampsia, it's lifelong. You have, your chances of having it again are high. So why are we not being treated like that? Yeah.
Catherine, your final comments.
Thank you.
You
So
wanted to say it doesn't be addressed.
yeah, I completely agree with what Ashley said. I just wanted to
Okay.
add 2 points. So one, church gatherings, and two, we have village savings and loan groups, also known as Vikoba, or in Kenya, I believe they're known as Chama. So these are groups. Right now, we find that the women girl child is very empowered. So we try to find things to make sure that we can stay together, rise together. That is the movement right now. It is great. So I think those are the places that we can really capitalize. And it's like if they're going to meet for a chama or a kikoba or a financial group, you just need to know when they meet. They normally tend to meet once a week or twice a month. Get in the meeting, just ask them for 10 minutes, 15 minutes of their time. Do you guys know of preeclampsia? If anyone's pregnant, just get the discussion started. I believe by starting the discussion, that is the first step to planting a seed. And then the same thing within the church gatherings. A lot of women really have a strong belief in their religious leaders, being the church, being the mosque. I'll specifically speak on the church aspect because I am a Christian. So there are a lot of churches right now that they have medical doctors who come in and talk to the congregation. So we can have specific during women meetings. They can come talk to the women, tell them exactly what's going on a medical perspective, but also ask this doctor to break it down in a non-medical context as well. So particularly for Tanzania, those two situations would be a very good starting point to reach women and get the discussion started, get them aware of when to start going to antenatal, what to do during postnatal and things of the sort.
Thank you very much for an engaging session. I hand over to my co-host, Isabella Kat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda, and thank you, Catherine, and then Ashley. In the last hour or so, we've heard about the importance of listening to women. We've also heard about strengthening community awareness, improving decision making, and also building like systems of care that are respectful, compassionate, and responsive. And these are really important conversations. They are conversations that oftentimes fall through the cracks. You know, we don't really bring women on board till it's so late. But I also feel like in conclusion, I'd like to say that we need to decenter preeclampsia management from being a hospital thing to more of like a community thing. It starts in the community, like you rightly said in your presentations. And so we need to reach women earlier before they get pregnant, support them through those very early phases, those difficult moments, you know. Imagine you've been admitted, okay, for preeclampsia, and sometimes it's weeks, months. Can you just imagine what happens to your job, to the other children you have, what happens to your marriage, and all of those things? So it's a very tumultuous time. There's a lot that women go through. And it's really about time that their voices are heard. We listen to them. We really genuinely support them, partner with them. And the call to action also said what? More funding for advocacy. That's like really important because we need money to buy fuel, to go to the community, and to do all of those brochures and all of those things. So thank you so much. And we are so grateful that you could spend time with us. David, can you please share the screen? Yeah. All right. So in wrapping up, please click on these links to join our WhatsApp groups and also to give us your feedback. Your feedback is so important because when we hear from you, then we know, oh, these are the topics of interest, these are the places we can strengthen and all of those things. So your feedback is so welcome. Please scan the QR codes or click on the links and share your feedback with us. Next slide, please. And we also need support. So we always encourage volunteers, but also if you'd like to donate or you want to join our network, please see any of the links or any of the numbers on the screen. Next slide, please. So a big, big thank you to the African Preeclampsia Network. Thank you to our incredible speakers, our organizers, and every single person who has joined us today. And we look forward to continuing these conversations in the next webinar of the series. And I also want to say, have a special mention for our partners, APEC Ghana, and also the Julius Center and UMC Utrecht in the Netherlands. Next slide, please. So this is also one of my favorite parts, where we get to take the selfie. Don't let me be alone on camera. Please join me. So turn on your camera and we are going to take a selfie. And so when I say 3, 2, 1, give us your biggest smile and we take the best shot. Because we're going to put this on social media. You want to look good, don't you? All right, David, are you ready for the selfie? All right, so 3, 2, 1, smile. Yeah, that was great. I hope my eyes are not closed. Nowadays, when I take photos, my eyes are closed. Naomi, I love I love how both of you are sat there together. That's so cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Stay safe. Have a wonderful evening. It's very early morning for me, so back to bed. But enjoy the rest of your day and see you soon for the main event. I think it's on the 22nd of May. Please visit our social media
The
handles.
21st.
21st. Great. Please visit our social media handles to keep track of the events and to get all the links and everything, and we'll see you then. So thank you, and until next time, it's bye from me. Thank you so much.
Also, thank you for the host so much for tuning in so early in the morning, Dr. Cardi. And for Dr. Linda Jeppel, also thank you so much for making time. And the speakers, thank you all so much. The host already said it very well, but thank you so much for making time. It's really that much appreciated. Okay. Have a great night.
We need our music.
Oh, the music, I will put the music on.
Malaika, nakupenda malaika, ningekuwa maliwe, ningekuwa dada, nashindana malisi nawe, ningekuwa malaika, nashindana malisi nawe, ningekuwa malaika. Besa sasumbua roho yangu.